Meeting for August the 19th. At this time, Mr. Kevin Kinlaw, Reverend Kevin Kinlaw from New Center Baptist Church will come up and lead us in prayer. And Mr. Greg Martin will lead us in the pledge of allegiance.
Okay, stand here.
Come on up here. Let me give you something so I won't hold you up after. On behalf of the Bladen County Commission, we're going to give you this pen that says, "In God We Trust."
I appreciate
And
that.
thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for the
And
opportunity.
you drop the floor.
Appreciate this, because that's very important, all that we do. Let's go to the Lord in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we come to you tonight and humble ourselves before you, and we thank you, Lord, for the rain that you've sent our way this afternoon. God, we thank you for the many blessings that you bestowed upon each of us. None of us are deserving, but you continue to pour them out to us each and every day. God, we thank you for these elected officials and these employees of Bladen County that are here represent the people of this fine county in which we live and work and eat and enjoy. God, we pray now that you'll be with them as they go through this meeting time together. Help them to remember the reason that they're here, remember the business that they're here, and remember to give you the praise and the glory for answering our prayers each and every day. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, I'm going to lose this tie. Please forgive me. I ain't brought it up. I don't want to fall out. You could get. I'm scared. I entertain a motion to approve the consent items. Mr. Britt, second by Mr. Dallas. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Item 3 is matters of interest to commissioners. Oh yeah, I got 2 to pray. One of them, Mr. David Gooden is excused. He's got personal matters in the morning, so he's excused. But I got a couple good news items. The guy at the Kennedy Levy died. He should have finished up today. I was down there this morning. We had some signs printed for people to stay off the levee where he's repaired it. I think he's got to go back and plant just a little more grass, but he should have all the breaches patched. We're trying to keep people off of them now.
How are they gonna do that?
Well, we put signs up. I mean,
Are they fine if they?
yeah, the sign says you'll be prosecuted if you caught. Second thing is, I got a call from the wildlife last week. I ain't got the email, but I got a call. The wildlife is gonna fix the floodgates.
Nice. Congratulations.
It's gonna be a one-time fix. So I said it'll be good.
Very good.
So, yes, sir.
I got one that I've got some comments on the sure with that pickup crash debris off the streets. I've got several people calling me being very complimentary that we need to expand it bigger, but they say they can see a difference in what's happening with that particular project. So Kip and those guys are doing a really good job on that.
Thank you. Individual delegation, who wishes to address commissioners? No one. Item 5, Bladen County Schools, Ms. Sharon Penny.
Should have the application that we're requesting approval for the lottery funding to be used to the finance the parking lot and the driveway there at Elizabethtown Primary School.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Caldwell, second by Mr. Britt. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Thank you, Ms. Penny. Make a motion to, water board. Motion by Mr. Bullock, second by Mr. Trivett. All in favor say aye. See yourself in water board. Mr. Kip, Mr. Gregg.
Good evening. We anticipated having Adam Kiker here tonight to give you an update on the Water District Phase 4 project. But Adam called us this afternoon feeling under the weather and asked if we could actually share the information he had in his place. I think before you, there was a map that was presented that actually shows the roads and the areas that we are gonna be doing Water District 4, and this is just an identification map. It's really hard to read because it's not so detailed, but this lists the roads that you requested that we do. Along with that, Adam wanted to share that on August 8th, the U.S. Department of Agriculture approved the bid documents for the Phase 4 project, which means we can now, once we finish up some paperwork on the easements and paperwork on the well property, that we can proceed. Those two things Mr. Johnson's working with us on, and Adam states that realistically, we're a month away from advertising the project for bids. He also states that from a timing standpoint, looks like we will be at the beginning of the USDA's new fiscal year, which he thinks for us is a plus in this project. And wanted me to share that test well came back, which I think I'd already done, came back very positive, and we will request, if we can tonight, action from the board to proceed with closure on that property. We need to go ahead and finish our offer of purchase and close on that property.
I do have a question.
Yes.
I was listening, but I don't know how I can read this. What line?
Okay, well, basically,
The fourth phase.
I don't know where they are.
all of your red lines cover the roads that were identified, and they're really hard to read because of scale.
Thank you.
But they show that you will get a 6-inch water line on those roads.
Okay.
Green identifies that it will be a 4-inch line. The purple identifies that it will be a 2-inch line, and all of the blue dashed lines are existing lines that we already have.
Why they go small ones? Why they go to 2 inches?
It just depends on what we're doing in that area. A 2-inch would serve by state regulations, to serve up to 20 homes, like in a mobile home park with a 2-inch. But also, you may be interconnecting two lines that closes a loop and helps us fix some of our water quality problems. So that's why you would do a 2-inch, like down a private road or on a property that we're trying to serve just a few number of homes.
We're talking about phase 4?
Yes, sir.
Where is that on the map is phase 4? Is it all over the map?
It's all over the map.
Oh, okay.
Yes, sir. It's not one particular district, but it covers several of the districts that are all on the west side.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
So you want a motion on what?
We just need to get a board action authorizing us to finish the paperwork and close the purchase on the well property. The well property that we made an offer to purchase on.
It's not on the agenda.
Okay, green.
Right.
It's not on the agenda.
So do we need to bring it back?
Well, as long as the option specified the terms of the purchase, so I don't know that there's any action that's, we'll talk to the attorney, I don't know that there's any action that's needed on that.
Okay.
Okay, item C is, bad debt write-off.
Yes, sir. Water staff have identified a number of accounts that are no longer active in our system. Some of these accounts date all the way back to Water District 2, when that was done. What these are, most of these are either deceased or property sold, and we can no longer collect on these properties. And when we say deceased or property sold, some of these people signed up for water but never connected on, which meant that a minimum bill was charged to those accounts from that day forward. And it accumulated, as you can see, quite a sum of money in some cases. And now, if they deceased, naturally we can't collect from those who passed on. But if they have sold property and someone else comes in and opens a new account on that property, then we can't collect what was there before, but we can begin a new account with a new property owner. So some of these properties are in that category as well.
Motion by Mr. Britt to write it off, second by Dr. F. Goins. Any discussion? So when's the last time we wrote, bad debt off?
I'm not sure, so.
I mean, some of these bills are almost $5,000. It's just.
We have a
amazing
record
to me
when we did it
that,
last time. Yeah, way back in the late 90s.
Okay. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed?
Before you go in, I have a question on the water bill.
Okay.
I I got a young lady who had a water leak. And they turned her water off, and she has small children in her home. I just found out yesterday, and it's been off for a year. She has small children
Okay.
in elementary school, middle school. And said that when she called, they told her she has to pay that, I guess it's almost $1,000, she had a leak. And that she cannot, I'm gonna give you her name and address. And it's unfortunate, this lady has been carrying water from house to house over a year.
Okay, well, we'll certainly look at the
About a
account and
week.
see what's been taking
And she
place
said,
there.
well, no one can help her. The information I received saying that she either paid the bill or she will not get any water.
Okay. Well, if you give me that after
I'm
the
right
meeting,
back.
But if she has the leak repaired, they will give her some credit on
we do, if the leak has been repaired. yes,
They
sir.
shut it down and that's it. And over a year.
it. So she hasn't repaired it.
No, she owns the property, rents the property, because all that plays into the
She
situation.
owned it already.
She probably owns, she lived with the grandparents, so I think they deceased.
We'll certainly look at it in the morning and see what we can do.
Entertain a motion next water board.
So moved.
Mr. Brett, second by Mr. Bull, discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Emergency service, Nathan Dallas, director.
Good evening. Tonight we have Brian Cox with us with HCP Planning, and he's gonna give us an update on what's going on his end with the HMGP grant money.
All right, good evening, thanks for having me again. On the hazard mitigation grant program for Hurricane Matthew, we made offers on 3 properties, one of which has accepted the offer, and we're working with the Johnson Law Firm to schedule a closing. Property 2 is rejecting and going to a second appraisal, and property 3 is rejecting. We have some issues with that property being eligible for the program to begin with. Just for reference, that property number 3 is a 16-acre parcel that was discussed during closed session about when we were getting just compensation. The elevation, we've had the pre-bid conference was held on August 6th. Bid opening is scheduled for tomorrow at 11 o'clock at Emergency Services. We're planning to bring that bid proposal before the next meeting so that we can move forward with the construction part of it. The reconstruction, we have two reconstructions have requested to move from acquisition. We still have not heard back from FEMA on that approval yet. As soon as we do, we are ready to come back before the board for just compensation on that one as well. Disaster Recovery Act for the rehabilitation projects. All of the 6 properties that we have awarded are either completed, in progress, or have withdrawn. We did have one withdrawal. The property owner had already had the repairs made by the time we got to it. And then we had property number 6 on Shola Road. The Lumber River COG completed it, so the homeowner had applied in many different places, which is what we're finding, and whoever gets to them first is who gets the project, and they're not notifying the other folks. So we have received over 100 new applications. We're prioritizing and performing inspections and write-ups on those. Currently, we've inspected 5 properties and have them written up and ready for bid. I will try to hold those and get about 5 more properties before we put it out for bid, which we're doing some of those inspections tomorrow. So, reconstruction projects, that was part of the bid package that was opened up on August 6th, and we'll be doing the bid opening tomorrow as well on that one at 11 a.m. at Emergency Services. Again, we're planning to bring that one before the commission at the next meeting for final bid tab for approval. We do have one manufactured home replacement and elevation. It has been sent to manufactured home dealers for proposals. Those are due back September 2nd. which is actually Labor Day. So we'll bump it to the 3rd. Hurricane Florence recovery update. The expedited acquisitions is in large project notification now. Since I wrote this, it's actually come out of large project notification. You'll find that I'll mention this large project notification as more awards come out. What that is where Congress gets notified first. So all your congressional representatives have the opportunity to put a press release out in your local area prior to you, the county, finding out about it. So I do have some back channels so I can find out sometimes ahead of time and let Nathan know, so maybe he can let you guys know a little bit early. The next steps in that, just because the projects are awarded doesn't mean it's gonna be a fast moving process. It's just gonna be as slow as it has been. We have to wait on the award letters to get to the state, the grant agreements to be written and fully executed before those projects can get off the ground. Once we do that, we're gonna have to go out for procurement for professional services again. Professional services and appraisers, legal, surveyors, asbestos inspections, etc. Once we do that, we'll give and the grant agreement is fully executed, we'll give notice to proceed for all those folks. Non-expedited applications, so this is everything else that was submitted. Application is still in development. We do have this only includes this round acquisitions and elevations. They did mitigation reconstruction. The state, when I say they, I'm referring to the state. They allowed mitigation reconstruction as a primary project during Hurricane Matthew. They're no longer allowing that as a primary project under Hurricane Florence. Reason being is the budgets are very tight and they're very restrictive. So what they're doing is they're letting that be an alternate project to elevation. So if we get an engineer out there and they determine that the structure is not feasible to be elevated, then they will, then we can revert back to reconstruction, elevate the home, and do what we need to do to fix it. And currently we have 71 properties identified for mitigation in the non-expedited Hurricane Florence application.
We received that final list, was it last week? Or
Yes,
week
sir.
before last? The problem we're running into with the Florence, with these 71 properties is, Matthew, they prioritize the applications for us. The state, when I say they. This time, they're putting it on us to prioritize those applications. So the problem we're running into is people that apply are in home blocks. So if you're not kind of concise with these applications and we come up with some kind of matrix, we can score these people. You're gonna run into checkerboard and properties when you might have this property acquired here and the property across the street not acquired. So right now, Ryan mainly is trying to come up with some kind of matrix to score these applications, and we will definitely be bringing that to you guys for your review before we start prioritizing these properties, because we got 71, we know we're not gonna get enough money to do all 71, so it's gonna be tough.
Mr. Britt, back up if you would. You said you had 100 new applicants, but you made a comment that you had 5 in some essence of your conversation, and you were going to be waiting for 5 more before you proceed. Could you clarify that?
We have 500 new applications for the Disaster Recovery Act money, the state funds. We have done, we're constantly receiving those in, and we're getting them on the schedule to go out and actually do site visits on those, walk through the properties, identify all the needs, draw out the house, and then get it ready for bid prep. So we've got 5 of them that are ready for bid prep that we have identified that are fully qualified, fully eligible for the program, and they are ready to be bid out. We got on the schedule to do more inspections tomorrow, and same thing will happen. Trying to bid these out in larger projects. there's a lot of time that is put into putting these requests for proposals out. And I'm trying to minimize some of that time to make sure that we get a good chunk of applicants served at a time.
My question, when you were talking about elevations, I think August the sixth, bids, was that for Matthew and how many?
It was one elevation.
Just one?
Yes, ma'am. We only had two in the Matthew project, and the other one was completely destroyed during Hurricane Florence. So we had to back up and punt on that one, and I moved that one over to the DRA program. That's the one that's out for bid right now as well.
I just have a comment. When you go through 53 over Atkins, all Pender County, those elevations are done. I know a lot of them were probably after Florence. Is it just because they got the money ahead of us or what? I mean, people are moving in back in their homes, and they're actually nice elevations.
A lot of those are probably privately funded. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, there's a lot of people, and another thing too to answer that, all these people are applying for everything. So a lot of times you'll get knee deep in one of these and you'll find out that they've got funds from somebody else, which throws them out of this, so you have to start. But in a lot of those where you're talking about, are already in the floodplain, so per building code, they had to be elevated
Oh, okay.
originally.
I got Nathan, Mr. Dowd, maybe you and Cox can help me out, is, as I ride throughout the county, the thing that kind of disturbs me is you see so many homes that have tarps on them. The tarps have deteriorated. Some people have moved out of the houses because it's gonna start to leaking so bad. And they're asking me about relief, and I'm asking what have they applied for? What's the recourse for those guys that have that concern? Because a lot of them have, like, you know, when you get into a situation where you need to fix the roof, and you got an insurance policy that says you got to put up 10% of $2,500 payoff, and the people can't afford to put $2,500 on the end of it. I'm asking, is there any thing that these guys can seek for relief? That the house is falling down. One house was going pretty good, and I'm looking at it now. The lady had to move out of the house. She said, I can't stay in it because it's raining on top of it. I mean, is there any funds through this mitigation stuff?
That's what the DRA funds are for.
So
We can do some of that with the DRA.
So I can come to you guys and have them to come directly to you,
Yes,
and
sir.
for this, to get roof repairs done.
Yes, sir.
There's also other channels too that don't deal with this. Up at the distribution center, the Paul Sessoms building, they've got some grants and stuff for short-term like that doesn't have such strenuous regulations on the money. It might can move a little quicker. Up here at the distribution center for some of these, I know they're giving out $500 pots for Samaritan's Purse and $1,500, and that's the problem that we're running into with all these. There's so many grants out there now. When one person applies for a new roof on their house, and I'll give you an example. I had a lady that I spoke with last week, or Tammy, and she applied to have her whole house rebuilt through none of these programs, another program. Well, she applied through another program, and they said, okay, we'll give you the money to do your roof right now. So they give her $12,000 right there to redo her roof. But what she didn't know was it kicked her out of getting her whole home rebuilt. So that's what we're running into. So we're trying to get these people to, we've got this thing, and y'all probably familiar, last year, I think we paid a fee to be on Charity Tracker through the county. So now they're trying to get release forms with all these different organizations to put them in Charity Tracker, so this doesn't happen. But
The only reason I brought the question up, I'm looking at first tax value. We talking about reassessing property. If you got the property that's water's falling in, it's getting dilapidated, then all we're gonna have is a bunch of property that need to be torn down. People not gonna pay taxes on. So I'm just trying to figure out, can we just kind of find some remedies to prevent some of that from happening?
Everything should be, you should direct everybody to White Lake Training Center.
yeah.
That's where you direct them to go.
So now that
And we got
ENC
people out
rebuild.
there and they supposed to be helping them, they supposed to be giving them guidance, and that's where you need to send everybody.
ENC rebuild is in the chapel. Before you go through the main gate, you take a chapel that sits out front.
Somebody there
All the time, 8 to 5 every day.
They got work to do.
Yeah, we've got an agreement with them for them to be there.
Well,
I just got a general question. You mentioned about priority training. Does the state give you any training or anything on that?
No, and the way, and Ryan could probably fill you in better on this, the way they done it last time was a cost analysis.
So we have to do a benefit cost analysis on all the properties that go in the hazard mitigation grant program. It's essentially what the benefits are divided by the cost. You come up with a ratio. To be eligible, it's gotta be a 1.0 or greater. The last time during Hurricane Matthew, the state, all the communities submitted their properties, and the state made the decision on what was getting funded and what wasn't. I've said this to other commissions and board of aldermen, but it's better that we do it at the local level because you have a little bit of control of your own destiny. If the state's doing it, they're just gonna pick the best properties that score the highest, which could be the cheapest properties or the smallest properties, but it may not actually reduce the floodplain. The whole point in this is to reduce the flooding and damages caused and loss of life and loss of property caused by natural disasters. So there is having some ownership at the local level is a good thing. But you gotta be prepared to take the good with the bad on that. Because there are gonna be people that do not get funded. So, whereas with Hurricane Matthew, everyone was able to point back to the state took the brunt of it. Now it's gonna be a little more local, but hopefully we have a little more idea of who's getting bought out, and we're not gonna run into issues like I've run into with that property in acquisition, that's in acquisition, it's been approved for acquisition, it's nowhere near floodplain at all.
But if you put my property on a low priority, is there any appeals process?
We can create an appeals process if you wanna do it that way, but we're stalling how long we're gonna get an application when we go down that road.
So what you're saying, because it's not in a flood plan,
So the one he's referring to, number 3 on property 3, issues with the price, is that the one over there?
That's the one.
So we had an application with it, and we were ready to move forward, and the lady actually applied for a reconstruction. Well, they come back and said, you can't do a reconstruction on this,
Okay.
you've got to acquire it. But when we went out and done a survey of the property, this was my first week on the job. Me knowing the area, I said, Howard, there's no way this flooded. And what had happened was, the state actually put the wrong coordinates from the other side of the county on this property. So we had to go back, and I'm like, we could, so it's.
Well, to be fair now, I'm not a flood zone, but I had trees around my house, and as a result, I got a lot of 21 inches of.
Well, see, that's exactly what happened to her. She had a tree fall on her
Now
house.
the water
And
just.
that's what caused the flooding inside the
Right,
house.
that's it, okay.
But she was not in a floodplain,
Okay.
which would not put her in an acquisition
Gotcha,
for the county.
makes sense. How
But we're
about,
still gonna try to help
And
her
help.
through the audit.
Also, the ones in Cali, they still in those little mobile units?
Kelly, you said?
Yes. I got 2 still in, I don't know if one of them moved his house already. Do they get reimbursed? They use their own money to?
So I know some of the people in Kelly, and I actually went to the long-term recovery group meeting a couple of weeks ago. Some of those people that did repairs are now getting in programs. And this thing's moving along because they're bringing people in. I think everybody's somewhat trying to wrap their head around all the different monies that are coming in that have nothing to do with us, it's just different organizations. Some of those people are getting reimbursed.
Okay.
I would have to know exactly what it is to find out if they are.
And my last comment, last week in New County, they had this Florence or flood session, and they wanted to come in and they talked about buying flood insurance and other things.
Okay.
Anything planned for Bladen County?
So
Well,
we we definitely can. I mean, if we want, you talking about like a seminar
That's
to
what they did.
educate
Mhm.
people on flood insurance? We could certainly do that.
Because it's,
We would have to do it where we're not promoting.
right,
Um,
it was just
Give that
education.
information.
Yeah,
It was really education for that.
yeah, I can,
And, I mean, it didn't have to be a session, but at least, a sheet so that everybody know
yeah, okay.
things are
Yeah, I can
available.
definitely do that. That's no problem.
Because it's not as expensive as people think,
Yeah.
flood insurance.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Eight, Ms. Keaton, consider revision of adverse weather conditions, annual leave, pay plan, overtime.
Is there something on there? Which one do you wanna look at?
Let's start with the first one, with this line.
Next one.
Next one.
You got an next one? Which one do you want?
Per, just doing
You just go ahead.
individual.
No, just go ahead, I mean, people just go ahead and explain it.
Okay. So this one is for inclement weather, option 1, option 2, for maintaining the existing policy, or if you look at option 2, and that's something that was previously discussed. So,
Mr. Chairman, just to share additional information, you all will recall that with, following Hurricane Florence in the fall of 2018, I know board members received feedback from employees and that type of thing. And there was discussion, as you all know, our existing plan, all employees are paid, those who work and those who don't work. And so there can be a rub with that. The proposal, option 2, that was discussed at our board planning session in February, would provide for employees who are required to come into work to be paid as they normally would for working. However, employees who are not required to report to work they would be required to use, annual leave. And that is similar to the state system and that type of thing. So that's just a quick summary of the two options.
Okay, what the proposal in front of us is to add non-essential personnel will use annual leave when offices are closed. Essential personnel would receive regular compensation for hours worked. Efforts would be made for employees to make up hours lost without going into an overtime basis. That is what's in front of the board right now for adverse weather condition, annual vacation leave, and the pay plan overtime.
Mr. Chairman, got a question though, if I'm working for the county and I don't have any leave, what do I do, leave without pay?
That's what I was asking.
yes,
That'll be working out. If we run into a situation where this, ice storm or hurricane come through and they're out for, everybody out for a couple of weeks, do we just say nobody get paid? They just run out of money, nobody gets a check?
Yeah.
That's mentioned that the way, that's what this is gonna work.
This thing says that there's an effort for the non-essential employees to make up time, so they won't, so they be held harmless. So there's opportunity for employees to make up time if they're not called in.
Is there a limit on, time limit on when they can make it?
Well, with non-exempt employees, who this would really, be the bulk of the majority of the employees would be non-exempt in this situation. As you all know, you can only work 40 hours in a week, in a work week, without going into an overtime situation. So really, it would be somewhat limited, with regard to that type of thing.
When are we gonna make it up then?
Well, because they haven't had to come in, it depends, part of it depends on how many days they're out. If they're out 1 day or 2 days, then you have to physically work 40. So they wouldn't have worked the day or two that may have been an ice storm. So they'd have an opportunity over the course of a couple of weeks to pick up a couple, you know, whatever time per day additionally to make up that lost time.
So they're non-essential. Suppose, do they have the option to come in if they're non-essential? Because suppose the person doesn't have any leave, and you said,
And that's what, that's what, as Mr. Chairman just read it there,
right,
that was there would be an effort to provide an opportunity for folks to come in if possible. But as we know, each situation is unique and different, and every employee's responsibility and role is different. So to the extent possible, we would try to work with employees so that they wouldn't be
You get extended time, but.
damaged financially any more than absolutely possible.
I make a motion that we approve.
Motion by Mr. All three of them. Motion by Mr. Tripp, second by Dr. Pt1 Goins. All in favor, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Thank you, Ms. Keaton. One question.
Yes, sir.
Can you wait till the end or
I
not?
can look at anything.
General service, Mr. Kip. I won't forget y'all.
Good evening again. A few weeks ago, it was suggested that we possibly be having some folks out of the county using our solid waste sites to dispose of their waste. The request was made at that time to research the possibility of providing stickers or decals for county residents to apply to their vehicles or use at a time they came to our sites to dispose. I've done a little bit of research into this and actually looked at a model county that is already using a program like this. Chatham County, which has approximately double the population that we do and significantly more budget than we do, is using this program. And in many ways it works for Chatham because they also have some very large areas of population and they also have curbside pickup, which takes care of a lot of their waste. But they have 12 convenience sites working in Chatham, and they have site attendants that are contracted just as we have that are managing those sites for them. The one drawback that Chatham, the staff that manage these sites brought up that Chatham experiences periodically is that if a resident comes to the site driving a different vehicle than they have decals, then it creates some controversy with the site attendant because they're instructed to let no one dispose of waste unless they provide the sticker or provide the decal. Now, the way Chatham manages this program, when the person pays their solid waste fees in their tax bill, every home that pays the fee is issued the decal. If additional decals are needed, then they pay $10 per decal if they wish to have 5 vehicles at their house labeled. They then provide the decals. But my suggestion before we launch a program like this in Bladen, because of everything it's going to create managerially, is let's do a little survey on our sites. I've provided, I think you have a copy of the survey form that we would like, if you can identify the actual sites that you think we've got this happening at, we'll give those site attendants a survey form. They'll request 2 pieces of information from each person coming in. They'll request a name and a physical address and where this waste is coming from. Now, that's trusting that the people that are going to come through are going to give us honest answers. Okay? But it also will raise the question of suspicion. And because I don't have staff, and we don't really have staff who have access to a computer system that can validate these addresses, I've asked our tax department, Ms. Renee Davis, if she could have staff check this list that we will provide from them that's coming from the sites to vet the addresses that are given. For example, if you came in, you said, I'm from this road in East Arcadia, my name is this, you'll go on the list. If we suspect that that waste is coming from, then we'll vet that address. And then we will actually then decide whether or not we need to take some enforcement action in that area. But that's what the survey would create for us. It will create a tracking to know how much this is happening or how many people may be utilizing our sites unauthorized. Yes?
The people who will come in are smart enough to tell you that if I go into Columbus County and I want to drop some trash, I'm gonna use somebody's address from Columbus County.
Mhm.
So it's, I mean, well, if I live in Columbus County, or if I'm Bladen, the problem I have is not the ones in the county,
Right.
it's the ones coming out, and those people know that they don't come all the time.
But if
Most
they,
of the people know who they are.
our way of capturing that would be if they give us a name that is fictitious and an address that is fictitious, then we can vet that through our tax department, determine whether or not a solid waste fee was ever paid for that property. And if it doesn't, then we've got a suspicious person that we can then refuse at our sites until we decide whether or not we need to really go with the decal program.
Only comment I have, maybe you could, add the tag number that's on that vehicle.
Well, we explored that, but we cannot use that per the DMV regulations.
Okay.
Unless it's under a criminal investigation, we can't ask that the tag numbers be researched to determine the physical address that the vehicle comes from.
Cardell? With the trash coming in from all to the dump, is it creating a problem now at a cost that's exceeding what we can expend? Is it creating a problem financially wise? Will it create a problem financially wise? We need to look at that, don't we need to look at that first before we start?
We have, and in fact, if you'll recall in our budget discussions, our solid waste tonnage has been up since the storm. We don't know if that's a reflection of the damages in the storm and people just cleaning out a lot more stuff, but our tonnages are up by almost 20% across the board, which means we're paying for more export, we're paying for more disposal than we are assessing in fees coming in. We're running right now in a deficit situation.
The only reason I was saying that is right now we're rehabbing houses, fixing houses. Every time you go by, you see somebody got a house gutted with the floors tore out of it, and they're taking it to the landfill. How you can regulate that with what's going on with the damage from the storm, right? You know.
Right now, the program is that they will pay for that waste to be disposed of, which generates a fee for it to be disposed of that should offset the cost of our disposal.
I'm just saying, if I walked into my house right now, and I had a piece of property, and I looked at it and went into it, and I said, I need to clean it out because the person stayed in it, moved out of it because it flooded. And I take all that debris out of my house, this is my property, and I'm paying taxes on it. So I pay my regular county taxes on it. Then I got to be questioned as to whether or not you can take it to the landfill.
Well, you take it to the transfer station under our current regulations, and here's why. Your MSW, which is municipal solid waste, is your common household trash that's associated with that property. That's what your solid waste fee pays for every year when you pay your tax on that property and you pay your disposal fee. That's really all we have money to cover. It's these additional waste, building materials, brown goods and other things, metals and things that come from these properties that we have to charge the extra tonnage fee because we don't have enough coming in to offset that. That's why there's a $45 per ton tonnage fee charged when you come across the scale. Now, many people will come in, like you just said, with a trailer load of stuff, and it may cost them $25 to dispose of because it really doesn't equal a ton. So we get that a lot, and we're having that come through a lot on these properties that are being renovated. But at the same time, we have to be conscious that your solid waste fee typically covers your common household trash. The garbage you towed out in a bag and disposed of is what our solid waste fee typically covers.
I'm saying the transfer stations, are they picking up that much debris?
We're picking up 20% more debris right now than we have in years
From the
past,
outside, outline.
from everywhere. Our tonnage is up.
And the fee is up, but it's just not up as much as
The fee is up, but it's not up as much as what we're hauling out.
Well, anyone else got anything?
I think a good point, that he just mentioned, Mr. Martin may want to elaborate on it, and I've had this conversation more than one time, is what your taxes on your tax bill actually includes, is what he's saying, basically your trash bag.
Your trash bags.
Not your sofa and your love seat and all that I've had to endure.
Now, we do take brown goods at our convenience sites, but we don't take building debris. We don't take wood and flooring and things like that.
And not commercial.
And nothing commercial.
That's all that was being paid for, that's what I'm saying, where's all this cost coming from?
But didn't we discuss this, Kip, or at least we brainstormed a little bit in a meeting a few months ago about the increase in what we, kind of thought that the hurricane was probably what contributed to this
Well,
increase in, tonnage?
We're still watching those numbers to see if it was hurricane, those numbers are gonna start to go
going
down.
down?
Yes,
Yeah.
but we haven't seen that yet.
Well, and also, I think that's because there's still so many homes that are waiting on insurance to come out still. I mean, there's still so many homes that haven't been,
And I would like to say this,
Address.
most insurance policies, if you have a policy that covers the roof damage on your home, and you have a policy that covers the water damage in your home, that policy will also pay for disposal. So it doesn't become an impact. If that person will utilize that in their policy, if they replace a roof, it should also cover the disposal of the materials.
but I'll tell you, they'll ask you, do you want me to take this, or do you have another form? Because people get this check, they don't always use the insurance check
Yes.
for what it's supposed to go towards.
But it's there for that purpose.
Sure.
Now, many times the roofers and other folks will ask you if you want to dispose of it yourself or do you want them to. If they'll bring it in, they can put it in their cost and then you're paying them to get rid of it.
So I wanna talk about the sticker. This, I've been here probably long as the commissioner's sitting here, but I'm telling you, we've talked about this before. You gotta you gotta put more work on employees. You're gonna make people unhappy in the community. You're gonna have to find some way to get them a sticker. If the trade car's got to come get a sticker, it's gonna cost them $10. If you limit people when they go there and you turn away at our sites, they're gonna throw it in the woods.
Yes, sir.
We've experienced all this, we've talked about all this. I'm totally against any sticker anymore.
And I support, I can understand that. The thing is, I just don't want you to charge another citizen, the citizens, another dime of disposal. That's one thing. I don't think we should get the brunt of increased disposable fee because people are bringing theirs in.
We don't know how much is coming in.
Well, I think your
I
site
mean, your
people
guess
know a
was-
lot of people are coming in.
Well, and this also goes to another level in the site. If I've got a site attendant who's been there 3 months, 6 months, he pretty well knows who the regular is.
That's right.
If he sees a suspicious vehicle, he can put that information on the list. And we do give on there a place for a vehicle description. Now, that doesn't mean we can research that.
There's a lot of.
But if it's a brown pickup or a green car, he can give that information, and that's something we can follow up on.
When you turn them away, they're gonna throw it in the woods on the way out of Bladen County. Okay, any other discussion?
I agree with that.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Beaver management.
All right. As Ms. Rose. Our champion.
You all created a committee to look into beaver management and what would be some of the better options for Bladen County. And we've looked at options, talked to the counties, and we feel like the expanding our APIS program to a full man would cost $60,000 a year. And to add where the landowner has no stake in it, would cover the landowner portion would be $66,000. And we partner with an adjacent county, and that being Columbus County, and split that cost in half. Okay, that would be your decision on.
So the figures you give us is 56, so you're saying it's 66?
It would be,
No, it's 56 on my paper.
Part of that was prorated. I think that was prorated.
That's what I was gonna ask, was
Okay.
that 56 prorated, if y'all let me finish, please?
it's approximately $30,000 plus $3,000 if you wanted the landowner stake for our half.
So the DMAP has gone up from 4,000 to 2,000,
No,
with $6,000 on here,
it's going up.
it's going up, $2,000. Well, I thought that's what I said.
You sit down.
Sit up. I didn't say down.
But
Anyway, I think the land, I don't have no problem, I think y'all done a great job, and I appreciate your time and effort. I think the landowners need some skin in the game, and I don't think we should pay the landowner share. I mean, we're paying, it will cost us roughly almost $38,000 next year to do this, without the landowner's fee.
Butch Adams, who is the administrator of the program with APIS, is gonna come back to us, very soon with some accurate numbers These are approximate numbers right now, to see if there will be any change for the 2020 year. But also Columbus is, they will have to vote on this themselves at their next board meeting or the early September meeting. So they would have to agree to this. We've also reached out to Pender, and Columbus is the first one, with their officials coming forward, wanting to, partnership with us, with a full man.
Chairman.
There again, among gardens, please.
There again, if you leave, put man, land owner share in there, you can have people that own land that don't live there. They don't care.
My point is, homeowners, they didn't bring those beavers there. Who put those beavers there?
State,
State put them there. So let the state pay for them removed.
I ain't got a problem with that. Why are we talking about this then?
That's my point, what I'm saying, but the state program is not doing it.
But this
It's a
is,
state
It's a
program.
federal.
they agreed on a
Well, it's
match.
federal program. Okay, it's federal, but, I mean, we get federal dollars, the county does, federal dollars. Then use those dollars, because my thing, I'm with you. It may be Joe Blow who lives in Raleigh. He could care less whether you get rid of those beavers. But Mr. Martin's house next door, and it's flooding his yard, then he does care. So if you expect that man to pay to get his part of the beef removed, he could care less. He'll say, leave him there.
Can you go on his land if he tells you can't go?
No, they would have to have landowner permission to go
Well,
in.
I know that, but his house is flooded though. His
You
land.
still gotta have owner's
gotta
permit.
have the home's permission.
I know that, but you still want the neighbor, he lives there. He wants his neighbors, want them to let the folks go over and remove those beavers. But he'll say yes, but if you tell him you got to pay, he's probably gonna say no.
I thought we,
What is, let me ask one question, I'll give you, Mr. Murphy. What is usually the owner's share? $250?
The owner share, it's the assessment is free.
Assessment's free.
And then they'll give you an estimate of how many visits it'll take, working visits. It's $25 for a working visit. And then $125 to remove the dam, that if it takes explosives or by hand or whatever, and to trap or remove the vehicle. So that's the landowner portion.
my only thing is I wanna make sure I understand, when we was looking at this proposal, we was gonna use a model that had already been existing. And the